Full and uncut versions available on Patreon. Check in the description below.
Greetings once again, Pokemaniacs. Duuz-Diz-Din back again with more of the Pokemon Adventures manga. The Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire arc. Wasn't about to add the the little added title there. But what happened last time? Well, Ruby, Sapphire, Maxie, and Archie used Kyogre, Groudon, and Rayquaza to attack one of the smaller but larger city-sized meteors that was coming down. Unfortunately, after destroying it, Groudon and Kyogre ended up crushed underneath the rubble. This pretty much ran out the remainder of Maxie and Archie's limited lives. I still don't understand the capacity in which they were kind of resurrected, or why. I mean, it seemed like the power of the orbs manifested, or the wills of Kyogre and Groudon manifesting as well in order to save the planet, but I don't know if we got a really good explanation, or maybe I'm forgetting it. Blaze and Amber arrived in order to, well, once again bid farewell to their leaders, taking their keystones in the process. And yeah, we did receive an explanation, but that shows how much of that I really understood, doesn't it? Sapphire and Ruby realized they need the power of Mega Evolution upon Rayquaza in order to destroy the actual finer meteorite, only for them to be attacked by Zinnia. All in an effort to get Rayquaza, and while Zinnia does manage to do this, Rayquaza rejects her, violently attacks her, and then takes off. Emerald then arrives on the scene, as well as Steven and Mr. Stone. Mr. Stone tries to apologize for what happened to Aster, as it was never his want for anyone to die in the attempt to capture Rayquaza. But Zinnia rejects his efforts, feeling as though his words are nothing more than hollow. But Zinnia falls into a deep despair as the realization that she is too far from what Aster had become, and so she gives up. But Emerald decides to be the voice of reason in this situation, saying that if separately they can accomplish what they set out to do, maybe it is collectively that they'll be able to actually accomplish their mutual goal of, not exploding. We also find out that the role Zinnia was planning to take was one in which, you don't really survive the trip into space, but the realization that through the use of technology, it might be doable helps move the plan forward. Red, Green, Giovanni, Blaze, and Amber also arrive on the scene to help out. Everyone shows off that they're able to use Mega Evolution in a manner that normally you shouldn't, showing that the meteorite seems to house an entity inside of it. The gym leaders of Hoenn, the Elite Four, the Frontier Brains of Hoenn, as well as the second Shelly and Tabitha, because that's still a thing. Still feel like that wasn't as fleshed out as it really could have been. Who are used to work for the Devon Corporation also join in to plan things out. Emerald even contacts the Johto Pokedex holders, since most of the Kanto ones are already on the scene. Steven even hands over a bunch of the keystones that used to belong to Aster that should help Rayquaza Mega Evolve, something Aster had received from Gherkin. But Zinnia is too injured to go on the mission. While in private, Ruby ultimately explains to Sapphire, who believes that he wanted to do this on his own. Ruby wants to go with Sapphire, deciding that should they end up perishing, well, maybe they should at the very least be together should they not succeed. While he wants to keep her safe, he also wants to be by her side. Very fatalistic, but very sweet. They explain what they're going to do to Zinnia, who ultimately accepts, handing over her duties to them. They'll be wearing the Magma and Aqua suits in order to keep them safe, but show up in their contest costumes because, well, Ruby made it for them, so if they're gonna go out, might as well go out in the costumes he made for their performance. Everyone's doing their best in order to prevent the end of the world, and at the very least, go out, together. Will they make it? We already kind of know what happens, considering this is kind of a flashback, kinda. But join me as I find out anyway, won't you? Alright, first there are some alterations made to some of the previous chapter, I believe. One of them is the picture of Platinum, where previously I didn't even consider it because I'm just like, okay, you're showing me an image of Platinum as we would be introduced to her because that's how I would recognize her. But they show that in the volume she'd be featured more as like a little child, because I don't think we actually got to see her as a little child. And I love the fact that she's even reading too. They also made the panel of Ruby, making his declaration to Sapphire a little bit bigger and having her reaction be multiple pages. Well, on a separate page, which is nice. I love that they really wanted to emphasize that page. And then there's this extra added page where you have Ruby and Sapphire holding hands. Aren't they adorable? And you have Red screaming out, "Wait, Giovanni, answer me. You came all the way here because you were worried about that, didn't you? Giovanni!" But Giovanni just simply walks off. Ruby calls out to Red, and Sapphire asks, "What's wrong?" Red regards both of them, but pauses. He then tells them, "I'm only speculating here, but the first thing is that when Pokemon attack the meteor, they're able to Mega Evolve. The second is that I heard the meteorite is the same one as the Grand Meteor. What if the meteorite if that's the case, then..." And that's the end. We'll add an extra something because it seemed like Red was kind of on to something as to what it is, and I know because I've seen stuff from games and animation and so on and so forth. Alright, let's jump into the final chapter. That should also be the, I guess, final volume. I don't know what will all be contained in. It said that there will be a 65th volume, and that will be the final volume of the Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire arc, but I don't know what will all be in it. I mean, I guess if this chapter is really just that long, more power to you, but no, it doesn't seem like it would be that long. And once again, like I've said before, if there's any added stuff, I'll maybe come back to this when I can. Alright, we pick up with Shelly, Tabitha, second versions, Emerald, Trickmaster, and Hoopa, who I guess Hoopa's, back to normal, with Trickmaster saying, "Alright, your suits have been equipped. They've been designed so that once the meteor's destruction has been confirmed, the link cable will activate and you two will be teleported here. You can rest easy and command Rayquaza to use Dragon Ascent after having it Mega Evolve." As, I guess, I can't tell who's gesturing at their suit. One of them says, "Are these Aster's keystones that Devin recovered?" Zinnia says, "The stones from mine and Aster's anklets are there too." Mr. Stone then says, "Inside Sapphire's is the Jade Orb." Oh. Emerald smiles, saying, not being able to see each other when you just put your contest outfits on. That sucks. Sapphire smiles, saying, "It's alright. Once we get back, even if we hate it, we can see each other every day." And then Ruby says, "Even if we hate it? What's that supposed to mean? Just when I thought the outfit would suit you." Sapphire shrugs it off, saying, "Oh, for Pete's sake, my tongue slipped. Why'd you have to be so picky for?" Everyone else just kind of shrugs all this off. I can't tell. Is that Blue next to Wallace, or I can't really tell who that is. Oh well. And when did Winona get here? Huh? Ruby says, "Well, for starters, Well, Sapphire says, "Guys like you are so..." And Winona interjects, saying, "Hey now, why don't you save that for when you get back?" And Wallace says, I'll take you two to Rayquaza in my car." It must have been Steven. That would make sense. Steven says, "It's awfully noisy out there." As suddenly the tent flies up behind them, and we see Rayquaza approaching, and then just grabs Ruby and Sapphire and takes off. Oh, okay. Oh, that's a thing that happened. Emerald calls out, "Ruby! Sapphire!" Steven says, "Wallace, Winona, inform the air team that the attack time has been pushed forward. I'll go contact the other regions." Wallace says, got it. Oh, I guess Wallace and Winona both say got it. Oh, also, since it's the final chapter, I really shouldn't be forgetting this. Got Rayquaza, and now you got Flygon, and there's a bunch of Pokemon in the air. The Flygon are with the Draconid people. I guess, is it Amber on Sharpedo? I see, I'm totally... Phoebe's Dusclops. Get Dusclops in there. I think that's all of them. Yeah, the Draconids are trying to get everybody into position. Okay, I guess some of them are standing on those weird whatever currents, the BS currents that everyone talked about. The Draconids are saying, right around there is good. You should move a little to the right. What was this guy's name again? Tomatoma. Tells Red, and then Red's looking at his hand saying, which way is right again? And suddenly everyone's taken off guard as Rayquaza flies past, and Rayquaza is just booking it into the stratosphere through the clouds. Ruby and Sapphire call out to each other as the pressure of the G-forces of all of this is really kind of taking a toll on them, which, yeah, it would be. Like, my God. But as Ruby opens his eyes, he sees meteorite, and Rayquaza is getting right up to it. Ruby says, so this is Grand Meteor Delta. Can something this big really be destroyed by just Rayquaza? Sapphire then says, Ruby, Rayquaza isn't anxious or hesitant at all. It's just waiting until it can use its strongest power. Ruby gives a nod, and then he says, alongside Sapphire, Rayquaza, bond with the light of my keystone, now! And Rayquaza Mega Evolves into Mega Rayquaza! Both Ruby and Sapphire commanded to use Dragon Ascent. God, the intense look in Ruby's eyes there is freaking me out a little bit. And, well, Rayquaza does just that, ramming right into the meteorite. Ruby closes his eyes from the impact, but we see a camera in his helmet, which is sending all the imagery back to everyone down on the ground below. Professor Cosmo tells Mr. Stone, Emerald, and Zinnia, Grand Meteor Delta is evaporating from the force exerted on the area Rayquaza attacked. Its mass is disappearing rapidly. It's a success! Yeah, everyone else cheers. Well, looks joyfully. Steven overhears this, saying, Success? Understood. Alerting all attack teams. Commence attack in 5 seconds. We see all the gym leaders at the ready when Steven says 5. We see all the Frontier Brains at the ready when Steven says 4. We see the Elite Four at the ready when he says 3. We see Wally, the Draconid people, Amber, and Blaze. So they ended up back in their regular old outfits, their Team Aqua and Team Magma outfits, when Wallace says 2, and red and green when Wallace says 1. And as we hit 0, everyone, I don't know, sends up their energy or whatever up towards the meteorite, ramming into it, utterly destroying the meteor. Professor Cosmo says, the fragments are scattering. Mission complete. Mr. Stone says, Steven, have the attack teams dispose of the fragments. We'll call those 2 back. But as Emerald is cheering with Mr. Trickmaster, he didn't notice something. He sees something on the screen and he asks, what's that triangle? And Giovanni in the back seems none too surprised. As the triangular object bursts open, something juts out in a helix form, destroying the camera. Shelley says, the life support system has been cut off from the monitor. Tabitha says, it won't recognize the link cable either. Uh-oh, that's not good. How did they get back? Emerald questions, what happened, shoemaker? Yeah, he still calls him a shoemaker, or a cobbler. Trickmaster says, I don't know. Mr. Stone says, not inside of the meteor, but inside of that triangle. Something. Emerald and Zinnia look to the sky, Emerald saying, what about Ruby and Sapphire? As we see Ruby and Sapphire hanging onto each other for dear life, as Mega Rayquaza is now battling Deoxys. I feel like that should have been a bigger spread. But yeah, you can even see that Ruby and Sapphire's suits, well, at least the chest components, have been damaged as Ruby and Sapphire are flung into the depths of space. Emerald then says, Hoopa, can you use your ring to save them? Hoopa nods, reaches inside of its ring, and pulls out a meteorite fragment. And it just kind of keeps doing that, even throwing one at Tabitha. Emerald saying, those are all just meteor fragments. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, Deoxys raises its hands and seems to command all the meteorite fragments to attack a specific location. Red can see it from where he's at and questions, what's with all those fragments? Professor Cosmo at the monitor says, the fragments falling have gathered together and they're heading for Pseutopolis. The coordinates are... Huh? Is it an attack on Giovanni? Professor Cosmo then, I think, looks to Giovanni, who exits the tent and looks outside. Oh my god. Oh my god. I never would have thought. Giovanni, as he sees the fragments about to rain down, looks to the sky saying, so it was you who I created, then threw away. He glares at the sky. It's almost as though Deoxys is glaring right back. All the while it battles against Mega Rayquaza, as Ruby and Sapphire, helpless in space, watch on. Ruby says, it's just like Red told us, a Pokemon from space. As we see a flashback to Red showing his Pokédex entry on Deoxys. Sapphire says, we only have to aim for one place then. Rayquaza one more time. Aim for its chest core and use Dragon Ascent. And, well, Rayquaza does just that, striking out against Deoxys. Oh, I think they managed to hit the core, and Deoxys floats off into space, lifelessly. Ruby says, we did it! With this, we've protected the planet, Sapphire. Meanwhile, Sapphire, tears seem to be falling from her eyes. Oh, okay. I thought it was because it doesn't look like they could get back. Sapphire says, sorry, Ruby. The tickets you gave me for the Constellation Star show, I dropped them in the ocean. And a bunch of other stuff. They're ruined. Now, we can't go and watch together. Ruby takes a moment and then says, who needs tickets? Just look. What the heck? It's like they're flying through space in their contest outfits. Tears roll down Sapphire's cheeks as she says, I'm happy we could be together till the last moment. But suddenly, something forces Ruby and Sapphire's hands apart. They cry out for each other as they're flung apart. But, it's just like, y'all really thought I was going to leave you out here. You came through for me, I'm going to come through for you. As Rayquaza picks up Ruby and Sapphire and brings them back to Earth. Ruby's shocked, but Sapphire seems a little happy and pleased. And it's always hard to tell with Rayquaza, but it seems like, yeah, I'm bringing you back home. Y'all good. And they make their way back to Pseutopolis, where everyone is waiting. The end. Okay, and I guess there's a special epilogue. I gotta say though, I feel kind of bad for the Deoxyses, because did they ever get like a happy ending? Because I think this is the last plot relevant thing that happens with any Deoxys. So, I mean, the one Deoxys is left floating unconscious in space, and there's always a chance it might try to attack again. Like, that didn't... Unless it's dead. Hard to say. And then the other Deoxys just kind of took off when everyone got turned to stone, right? Kind of left wondering what'll become of them. But we then pick up with Emerald relaxing on a hill. He says, this is so good. Not having to worry about the world being destroyed is so good. Only for something to hit his head as he turns to Hoopa, frantically searching through its ring. As Emerald says, that hurt, Hoopa. Don't toss the stuff you bring from your rings like that. Only for someone to say, found it. It's Ruby holding up a Mega Stone saying, look, Emerald, without a doubt, this is the answer. Oh, he really wants to put Diancie in a contest, huh? I really do wonder how Diancie ended up in that cave, then. I would have figured maybe it would have stayed with Ruby if it had this much of a, I don't know, like a relationship with him? It's kind of hard to say. No, actually, yeah, how does it end up in the Kalos region? Because it feels like it maybe you liked hanging out with Ruby? It's hard to say. But Ruby shakes Hoopa's hand saying, thanks, Hoopa. So we're not going to see Hoopa in his unbound form. Dang, that's kind of a bummer. But then again, I don't know. The implications behind what I know about Hoopa Unbound are kind of, so maybe that's for the best. Emerald says, I thought Hoopa was practicing bringing things from its ring, so I let it search for the stone, but it really wanted to please Diancie with all its heart. Ruby says, tomorrow Mrs. Stone will take Diancie to Kalos, so I'm glad it found the stone in time. Oh, I mean, Mr. Steven. Wait, Steven is the one who takes Diancie to Kalos? But why? Why take it to Kalos? Oh, and Hoopa seems to be shocked by this. Ruby says, did I say something I shouldn't have? Emerald says, chin up, Hoopa. If you really are meant to be together, you'll be together in the end, even if you are separated. Well, since there's ZA coming out, and Diancie ends up in Kalos, maybe, I'm just saying, get Diancie and Hoopa showing up there together. I really want them to adapt ZA. Again, not adapting Legends Arceus made sense, because, okay, it takes place in the past. There's only so much you could really adapt from that. But ZA is an actual continuation of X and Y. Please adapt that. Emerald then says, which reminds me, when you parted ways with Rayquaza, you gave it some Pokeblocks. Ruby says, yep. Oh, really? Since Rayquaza's nature was brave, I gave it a spicy Pokeblock. It was meant as a gift for everything Rayquaza did until now, and it serves as my best regards when a crisis comes to this planet again in 1,000 or 2,000 years from now. Emerald says, then one is not enough. Oh, that's good to know that ultimately Ruby and Rayquaza parted on good terms, and I thought they were at least a little bit cool before, but Rayquaza was having none of that. But now we're finally, I think, cool with Rayquaza. I think. Emerald says, all right, it's time for you to head out. Ruby says, to where? Emerald says, seriously? Isn't Sapphire waiting for you? Ruby says, you're right. Dude, Emerald says, I can't believe this guy. He can exactly tell a Pokemon's nature, but he can't figure out a human's feelings. Ruby then hops on Latios. Okay, they're still cool. Good stuff. I actually love Ruby and Latios' relationship. Like, it kind of felt a little forced to a certain degree, but I don't know, they kind of jive with each other. And Latios got so much attention back in the Emerald arc. I like the fact that Latios actually got time to shine, because Latios was just eating up all of the development and the scenes, and Latias's human form was just all the rage. I'm pretty sure the mangaka still kind of put Latias's human form in their little extra stuff in between volumes and stuff like that. So Latios actually getting its due. I appreciate that. Yeah, Ruby hops on Latios and says, okay, I'm leaving. What about you, Emerald? Emerald says, the Brains said that there's stuff to talk about, so I'm gonna see them. The Brains? Hey, Cosmo and the others? And they say bye. Cut to a very angry Sapphire saying, you really are such a... But Ruby says, sorry, but to make sure your contest spectacular debut turns out as spectacular as it should, I had to. Sapphire says, yeah, sure. You didn't just want to do it yourself. Ruby says, huh? Sapphire says, yeah, we don't have time. Go and change your clothes. She still has that mindset. I can understand that. After everything he's put her through, her still being a little bit skeptical about the way he can be makes a bit of sense. And then we have Ruby's narration. Now that we're freed from our 10 days of despair, we were able to think about tomorrow again. Although we would probably forget about it soon, today we can give our best, knowing that tomorrow will come. Oh, wait. I'm almost forgetting. Donphan. I feel like I've probably forgotten something. Oh, right, Deoxys. I was so caught up in the moment I forgot Deoxys. Yeah, I think that's everyone. There's something we will never forget. We can protect our future and our tomorrow, as long as people and Pokemon remain together, understand each other's reasons, and stay hand in hand to help each other. And so Ruby and Sapphire Mega evolve their Pokemon. As Sapphire tells Mega Donphan to use Giga Impact, and Ruby tells Mega Diancie to use Dazzling Gleam. The end. I'm realizing something. What happened to Gabby and Ty? Wait a minute. Did they have any involvement after all of this? Now that I think about it, like, they just kind of disappeared from the story. And they kind of end things with them being kind of flagoogy by that one dude. And he gets his comeuppance in the end, but dang, Gabby and Ty kind of got rolled on that last little bit. That's unfortunate. Oh well, what can you do? They have a nice little moment in one of the animations, so I think that should be good enough. Okay, that ended up being a lot shorter than I thought it would be. Like, we were just booking it through everything that was going on there. I mean, yeah, it's only one chapter, so it makes a little sense. I really do wonder if the actual volume will put out more. Because what more could you really put out? I mean, it was a good finale. You even had a very good epilogue, to be honest. I mean, just because I would have liked to have seen, like, Gabby and Ty get a little bit more at the end, it's not like a must, you know? And I don't think in the games it's even acknowledged that the world was saved by, you know, Ruby and Sapphire and all that. So, them not really having a moment makes enough sense as anything else. Yeah, I don't know. I would love to know what happens to Zinnia after this, because that really is the thing. It's obvious it's left a little bit open-ended what happens to everyone after the point, because, well, the mangaka wouldn't really know. We've entered into a point where I would be hard-pressed to do anything extra with certain characters, mostly because you never know if there's going to be a remake or something to come down the line that would maybe really contradict what you have any of those characters doing. There's already kind of enough of that. I mean, it's kind of a bummer you don't really get to see the original Tabitha and Shelley and Matt and Courtney, what they were up to during all of this. Like, there's so many things that you don't really get to see or experience or catch up on. Like, I really would have liked to have seen Courtney. Have Ruby have a little bit of a heart-to-heart with her. Something along those lines. Or, I don't know. I don't know if you could really square the circle of how different in appearance some of the other characters are. Yeah, them changing up Matt and Shelley and saying they're completely different people makes enough sense, because the design changes are way too drastic. I think you could kind of finagle it a little bit, but it'd be really weird. It's too much of a difference. I think I just miss Courtney's thighs. Sorry, they really paid a lot of attention to her legs in a lot of shots, and it's like I kind of missed that. Like the little subtle perversion you had going on there. It's just like, yes, for all I know, Courtney was an adult woman, and I will take that gladly. I mean, if she was Daisy's rival back in the day, then yeah, I mean, Daisy would have been well into her 20s by that point, so I'm comfortable enough simping for Courtney. But I don't know, that final battle against Deoxys, it just wasn't interesting enough, you know? It was just a few hits and then we were done. I would have liked a little bit more with the Giovanni situation too. It's not a bad finale. By no means, it's not bad. It just leaves me being like, I wish we had this, I wish we had this, I wish we had this. It left me wanting more. Like, I would have loved an epilogue that just went on for a stupidly long amount of time. And maybe that's what we'll get in the volume once it comes out. Maybe that'll kind of help out a lot of my issues, quote-unquote issues, with the finale there. But altogether, I like the way it ends. That's the thing. You know, we emphasize the relationship of Ruby and Sapphire, which was such a big part of the overall story. Like, the mangaka knew what the big eye on the prize thing was, and that was their relationship. Very much like with Black and White. Like, the relationship is a big selling point of these characters. Keep that at the forefront. Go with that. And, you know, with that in mind kind of thing, this conclusion works for me. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How did you feel about this finale? Do you have any of the quote-unquote gripes? I lose that term very loosely in air quotes because I'm like, I don't hate the ending. It was like, man, I wish you would have added this and add this and add this and add this. I'm selfish is what I'm saying. So, but let me know what you would have liked to see for this finale. Do you actually have an issue with it? I would love to know why. Let me know in the comments down below. Like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the ride. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, where we make our way to, finally, Alola, just finally heading to Alola. I feel like I've said that a few times, and like finally in the game I actually came back to the Pokemon series 4 because I had money at that point and I could just go out and buy my own video games now. But heading back to Alola, gonna be great to go into Alola, see things I'm familiar with, and then get to the Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon stuff and be like, what? So I'm looking forward to that. I hope you are too. I hope to see you then. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.